Have you ever struggled with what you should practice and how you should practice and how long for you should practice? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss the difficult topic of how to set up your own practice routine. I think a good place to start this discussion is, it's good to ask ourselves some key questions when it comes to setting up your practice routine. The first one is, how long have you been playing? This is relevant because if you haven't been playing for too long, then your practice doesn't need to be that long either. Similarly, if you've been playing longer, then you might need to practice a bit longer, but also focus on particular topics that a beginner may not be able to grasp. Let's run through a few examples. Let's say you're a beginner and you know how to strum a few chords and you're taking lessons with someone. I recommend you'd only need to practice around about 20 minutes a day to achieve something of worth when you're at that level. Whereas if you've been playing for 4 years and you start learning how to study to solo, that means you need to take more of an interest in more muscle memory dense activities such as legato, sweep picking, alternate picking, more specialized things, and those will take a longer time to be able to learn. And that means you need to have a different practice routine than someone who was a beginner. For someone who's been playing that long, you might need to be at least spending 1 hour a day as a minimum to maintain your technique and to develop more techniques as you go along. Now we have a rough idea of how long we should practice for. Let's move on to the next topic. What are we talking about when we talk about practice goals or goals in general? Well, it may or may not occur to you, but when we practice, we should be practicing towards a goal or aim in mind. For example, if I want to be playing the F chord or the F bar chord at the first fret of the guitar, what should I be doing to make that easier for myself? That question and the answer to that question becomes the goal for you and your next step. Then you make a routine out of that goal until it's easy, and then you ask yourself another question. What is it that I would like to do, but I feel I can't do it right now? Then you plan towards that goal and reverse engineer towards that target and include that into your routine. The same is true if you've been playing longer. The principle of that stays the same. You ask yourself the question of where you think you are and where you want to be, and then you set sail for the high seas and try to aim for that next goal and that next target. Anyway, enough of the sailing metaphors and on to the next topic. Now, what do we mean when we say realistic? We mean to set achievable goals that can be done in a reasonable time frame. If we go back to that beginner example and say they want to learn how to sweep pick at 160 BPMs, but they can't play that F chord, you can see where this is going, and they're not going to have a good time when they try and attempt it. It reminds me of when I met a student who really loved Dream Theater, but has only been playing guitar for 6 months. Now, I commend that person for being able to have the gumption to try the solos for Dream Theater. They're very difficult, very challenging. But if you attempt that and you've only been playing guitar for 6 months, the sensation of burnout, when I talk about burnout, what I mean is when you feel like you cannot practice and the inspiration for playing has gone completely from your enjoyment of the instrument, it's going to eventually catch up to you because of you've got this lofty goal and you haven't done the basics or the intermediate stuff, and you're going straight to the advanced stuff. I commend people for trying that, but you're going to have a bad time long term, or short term really. It's going to stop you from enjoying what you're doing. So what we want to do instead of that is set up realistic goals and realistic aims within our practice routines. It's always that question of, where am I now and where do I want to be? Then when you have the answer to that question, you make smaller milestones. These smaller milestones can help you set up like a progress chart towards the bigger goal of that thing that you need to get to. And that goal could be learning a new technique, sounding like someone else, learning a song, whatever it is. You can always break it down into smaller milestones. The main thing though is whatever it is, just start it. You will make mistakes, that's only natural, and it's good to be easy on yourself as you make these mistakes and progress, because you will come up to brick walls, but over time, if you take it easy on yourself and you start practicing a little bit and every day, you will overcome those brick walls and you'll be able to go into different areas and improve and improve and improve. Now, on to the last topic. The sad truth is a lot of these practice routines and these grueling hour upon hour routines that people have floated around the internet and people have adopted into their routines aren't that really helpful, because no one actually uses them for a musical application. For example, if you've heard of Frank Gambale's Chop Builder or John Petrucci's Rock School, you name it, insert really good guitarist and their practice routine DVDs or whatever. Having those as a resource to pull from to insert small chunks into your practice routine is great, but trying to complete them, not even they are doing that. They are just doing their practice routines to maintain what they can do for their shows. They're not spending all of those times doing the whole routine. And maybe John Petrucci, but he's an exception. But like, definitely not doing that in most of those DVDs and routine workouts that you find. And it's not very helpful, and it's not that actually musical to do. But it's good for its own purpose of just doing exercises to warm up your fingers. But then after that, move on. So my main point about that is, when people adopt these extreme and sometimes punishing practice routines, that can lead to burnout, as I discussed earlier. So we want to avoid those at all costs, and we want to incorporate a musical approach to your practice, asking that question again: where do I want to be? Where am I at? And then reverse engineer that process. Which is why we should work smarter, not harder. If we can get the same results in a shorter amount of time, and we're not causing any pain or problems with your tendons or anything like that, that is the direction that you should be going in. Minimizing the time, minimizing the pressure on your joints and the strain that you may feel, and making sure that it's enjoyable to do every day. That's the direction everyone should be aiming for. For example, there's a story about my practice routines, and when I was learning guitar, there was a habit to go into spider exercises, do that for 8 hours a day, which wasn't very, very helpful, and it wasn't very musical. And the problem with doing these grueling exercises and routines is that you could be ending up playing and getting yourself into a rut with bad technique and drilling that bad technique over and over and over and over again. And then you have to spend as much time playing the correct technique and reverse engineering how you got that, and then understanding that the grueling practice routine that you gave yourself is actually a hindrance because you're practicing the wrong technique over and over and over again. One thing that I would say about practice routines, it's good to add variety. By that I mean adding chordal work, rhythmic work, music theory, studying songs, just trying to mix it up to keep yourself interested rather than practicing the same thing over and over again, which can be a detriment. One thing I'd like to mention about practice routine habits is that 1 hour a day is better than 5 hours in one day. This is due to how our muscles function. This bad practice is what I call binge practicing. It's where you try to practice as much as you can to catch up from the previous days that you haven't been practicing. And it's a common thing that happens with beginners, sometimes like experienced people. The issue with it is that you'll always be playing catch up to the last time that you tried to warm up your muscles, and it's not conducive to how our muscles actually work on a day-to-day basis. They need to be warmed up and it's much preferable to play 10 or 20 minutes a day if you can, and then do that daily with a consistency than to try and do a binge practice on one day, because you'll always be playing catch up and your muscles will not like it and it will feel not that great to play. This is part of what we mean when we say practice smarter, not harder. For some of us, recording a practice diary can be really, really useful in tracking how much we've achieved over the course of a day, month, week, year, whatever. It can be really good to look back at how much we have done in the past, and then we can say to ourselves, because I've practiced this much, I have this much confidence in what I'm going to be able to do. It's also a mental reinforcement that you've done the practice, and it's good to get into the habit of saying, I've done it. Applying the stuff that we're talking about how to set your goals and how much you should practice, doing that and writing it out after you've done it inside your diary is very, very rewarding, and it feels like you've achieved quite a lot, especially if you do it daily. This is what it can look like. Let's just switch over to my phone and I'll just show you briefly like a bit of like a snippet of my practice routine.
So this is just an example of the practice routines that you can write down, and this is one day where I would do a little bit of practice just to make it consistent, and I do that pretty much every day. So I do my exercise at 80 BPMs with 5 minutes, then exercise 1B at 80 BPMs 5 minutes, exercise 1C. These are referring to exercises that I use and have been written out.
What I do is mark down what I have done for the day, how many minutes I spent on that exercise, what tempo did I spend the exercise on, and the type of exercise that I did. But I only write this down after I complete it. I don't set myself up for failure by writing it in advance and feeling like if I don't accomplish the thing that I've written in advance, then I'm setting myself up for a false expectation. So the best way to do it is to write down after you've completed the exercise, so that it's a record of what you've done rather than a record of what you will do. So you can use this diary method if you want to change your goals, and you can reinforce your achievements over time. So I would like to say that this video is mostly used as a guidance or guidelines to set up your own routines, and I hope you enjoyed all the tips in this video, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.